Good afternoon, all, and welcome to Clevenard TV in Diaspora. My name is Esther Chidera Chukwu, your host for the day, and we have an amazing guest in the house today. But before I introduce him, or even before I tell you the topic of the day, I would like to give you a certain information about Clevenard TV in Diaspora. So, Clevenard TV in Diaspora is an internet online TV service. So we are created to bring about the Africans back home and in diaspora together, and also just to celebrate and appreciate their achievements. So please try as much as possible to sign up to our channel at www.cleveland.com. So here we have Mr. Nwobi Smart in the house. He's an attorney, he's a director, CEO at Nwobi Attorneys. Welcome, sir. We're happy to have you in the house today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So today, guys, we are talking about immigration laws in South Africa. So, sir, kindly, before we get into it, please tell us more about yourself.
Okay, my name's Barrister Smart Nwobi. Uh, I'm a legal practitioner resident in South Africa. One of our specialists, what we do is immigration laws. In fact, as part of our international law assignments, I do have a master's in international law, and as a result of the outcry of migrants in South Africa, then I dedicated part of my firm to delivering these services to to the foreign migrants in South Africa. So much about me. I don't want to speak much about myself. I'm
Okay.
both a litigator. So basically, I'm a lawyer, a practicing lawyer for that matter, and a specialist in immigration matters.
Okay, that's awesome. So I would like to ask, what are your charges like? And also, do you handle any pro bono cases in your firm?
Yes, we do. We do handle pro bono cases. Yeah, we actually have a program whereby we identify the indigent. We ensure that they are truly indigent, that they cannot afford the services, and we once introduce some services to maybe some organizations that are well organized, to say if we can come and give free legal advices to those particular sessions of migrants, not necessarily from a particular country, but those who found themselves in this country for one reason or the other, and are unable to legitimize their stay or to regularize their stay in the country. Yes, we do have such, but first of all, we need to identify that indeed, in order for us to render these pro bono services, that it is deserving to such individuals or group. Yes, we do have such.
Okay.
It's part of our, call it a community service that we do.
Okay. That's awesome then. I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to hear that. Okay, now let's get right into it. What can you tell us about the immigration law in South Africa? I know it's quite broad, but just give us a little bit of an intro on what it's all about and how it works in AC.
Okay, just as you have said, let me reiterate a bit. Indeed, immigration law is quite huge. It is a whole lot of legislations, is a whole lot of act of parliament, different types and kinds. Um, Without wasting much of our time, immigration law in South Africa, it is a piece of legislation
Okay.
designed to regulate migrants that are not of South African origins,
Okay.
how they could come into the country. This piece of legislation, just for clarity's sake, is known as the Immigrations Act of 2002,
Okay.
as amended in 2004. That is a current law that regulates visitors in terms of Section 11 of the Immigrations Act, which deals with visitors' visa. In this said act, the section 11 deals with visitors, how to get visitors' visas, different kind of visitors' visas. Then in this particular Immigrations Act, we do have different kind of business visas. So in the past legislation, it's called business permit. So we do have different
Okay.
kind of permits that allows you to sojourn within the borders of South Africa legally, so
Mm-hmm.
depending on your intentions. So the Immigrations Act of
Mm.
2002, as amended, regulates different kinds of intentions and different kind of foreign migrants that will be allowed in
Okay.
South Africa. So
Okay.
hence, as you said, that the immigration law is quite a lot, depending
Mm.
on the intention of the migrant.
Mm.
For instance, if the migrant says, "No, I'm going to do business in South Africa," then
Mm.
the next question should be, what are contained in the Immigrations Act as
Mm.
it relates to business, the
Mm.
permission to do business in South Africa? So it's contained in this piece of legislation. So I wouldn't want to say a lot of them. There are medical visas,
Mm.
permits, there are spousal permits, but I will be led by your question, but I can't speak a whole lot. So,
Mm.
depending on the intention of a group or individual that
Mm-hmm.
wants to migrate to South Africa, the first question is, what do I do within the confines of the law in
Mm.
order, yes, to be protected? Basically, that's his immigration law. So,
Okay.
before I run the questions up,
Mm-hmm.
that is the Immigration Act of 2002 covers different kinds of people. Now we do have also what we call immigration regulation.
Okay.
Immigration regulation deals with the requirements
Mm.
and the processes to be followed depending on the intention of a particular individual. But the act lists the substance of each of different kind of permits or visas that are allowed within the country, or
Mm.
residency on different grounds.
Okay.
Now we do also have another piece of legislation, just to sum up the immigration law. We do have another
Okay.
piece of legislation called the Refugees Act, for
Okay.
those who run away from their respective countries for one reason or the other and decide to seek asylum or refuge.
Asylum. Mm.
Yes. So the refugee situations are not covered in the Immigrations Act. They are
Mm.
covered under another piece of legislation called the Refugees Act, Act 130 of 1998.
Okay, interesting. I was actually going to ask about, I didn't realize it was two different um things that cover them. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So
Then
okay.
lastly on the law,
Mm.
there are also the Citizenship Act of 1996. So
Mm.
it's quite broad.
Mm.
Yes, so
Very.
we'll be able to narrow it down depending on the right question and the intentions of whoever that wants to reside in South Africa for whatever purpose.
Purpose, basically. Okay, thank you so much, sir. That was a very, what should I say, nice summary of it all, if I can put it that way.
Thank you.
So I know that in February, I think the 2nd of Feb, 2022, the critical skills list was, there was a new critical skill list that was introduced. So I just wanted to find out, are there major changes to the new critical skills list?
Okay. It is not necessarily a list. It
Mm.
is called. It is a gazette.
Is it?
Actually, yes, it's a gazette that has a benchmark of, it's a gazette, just hold on, just to come to speed. It is a gazette number 445 of 45860 at volume 680. This gazette came into place on February 2nd, February 2002, and it was signed by the Honorable Minister, Dr. P.A. Moswaledi, who is the current minister. So the previous gazette that had, just to borrow the word you've used, the list of skills, the list of skills that are considered to be critical skills. In other words, we call them exceptional skills. So the old gazette, which was made in place by the former Minister of Home Affairs, Gigaba Malusi, Mr. Gigaba Malusi, was quite extensive with a lot of exemptions. Yes, this current minister had a lot of change. In fact, there was a lot of reduction on the list of the current gazette, and the previous people that took advantage of the previous gazette, I would say they were quite lucky, because this current gazette has a lot of short changes on them. But however, if your skills falls within, because this is law, and as I'm saying, remember, the Immigration Act stays the way they are. But if there are addendums, like a gazette, like a regulations, then the current minister, with their delegation, has the power to say, no, the other skills that were allowed in the previous regimes were not regarded by us as critical skills. Yes. Now, in a nutshell, in just a summary of your question, yes, there are major changes in the new list as per the new gazette.
Okay, so now what happens to those people that their, let's say, their skills are not part of this current list? What happens to them?
What happens to them is they will have to find alternative, because you see, when laws were created, if law is created, that's what we call applications of the law. We need to read into the gazette to see whether the laws which was passed on the 2nd February 2022, this year February, has what we call a retrospective application. Retrospective application is, does it apply to those who are already here before the laws were made? Or does it have what we call a retrogressive application? Now, as far as the new regulations were concerned, from that date, if you are making an application, if you have not made an application, if you have made an application before February 2nd, in respect of the old gazette, then you can be rest assured legally that your application will be granted. If it is not granted, it is against the law, then you can consult a practitioner who can take the matter up. But if you fall within, for instance, you graduated with a particular skills, let's say you graduated 2021 December, you had your graduation, you managed to secure a skill, but boom, the 2nd of February, you have not made an application to be recognized in terms of those skills, then automatically you fall outside the benefit of the current gazette, unfortunately.
Wow, that's heartbreaking. That's really heartbreaking. Okay, before we go on, I'm already so excited about this topic. Before we go on, let's just take a short break. We'll be right back.
All right, thank you.
Hello there. Looking for an African movie? Search no further. Clevenard African Movies TV is here for you. We are dedicated to the acceleration of African films, TV series, documentaries, and lots more. Explore our movies at home or on the go. Clevenard Movies is free to watch on Clevenard.com. Don't miss this opportunity. Hurry now. Sign up and subscribe today.
Welcome back, guys. So before we went on a break, Mr. Nwobi gave us just an explanation about the critical skills gazette. So now let's just go into I want to just find out what are the requirements for someone who wants to apply for study permits, someone who wants to study in South Africa, but they don't know where to start or how to go about it. What are the requirements? What do they do?
Okay. I would say the question rather should be, where is this individual? Is this individual outside or within the country?
Outside the country.
I'm gonna answer both. If the individual is outside the country, be that as it may, first thing first, the study visas are regulated in terms of just a second, in terms of Section 12. Section 12 of the Immigrations Act. If one wants to apply for a study visa, first thing you do is to first locate a school, a recognized institution that you would like to start with. And first and foremost, you must ensure that the school is indeed registered. There are ways of confirming that they are duly registered. If the person is outside the Republic and has found out the school are required to dispatch what we call an admission letter to such prospective students. The school is expected to do, amongst other things, to give an undertaking letter, acceptance letter to this individual. Now, depending on the foreign country that this person is applying from, there is always a South African embassy, and some of this country has what we call VFS centers. VFS centers are visa facilitation centers that are deployed by South African government in order to accept applications on their behalf and send them through to them for adjudications. So amongst other things, the most important documentations is to ensure that the school is registered, you've paid the prescribed fee, and one of the requirements is that you need to have a medical aid, you need to have sufficient funds. You know, there are a lot of things to prove in terms of the process, the regulations. You need to submit a police clearance character indicating that you do not have previous convictions or you are not on a wanted list. Amongst other things, you need to be able to provide funds that you have paid for accommodations or the school is going to afford you accommodations. Then once all this documentation, there are other documentation that will also have to back them up, which need to be looked up in the regulation, which includes radiology, medicals, yet, you know, there are other documentations. Then, depending on the requirement of the institution that you intend to start with, because different institutions will have their requirement before a letter of acceptance or admission can be given to you. Some of the schools will require that your certificate be evaluated by an organ called SAQA.
SAQA, yeah, okay.
Yes, so depending, yes, on the school, Yeah. So, and then also we have the educational boards. We call them HESA, higher
Mm,
educations, yes,
mm,
institutions who can also verify this document. But in terms of the act, in terms of the Immigrations Act, the
mm.
authority given the power to verify and to and to translate foreign certificates as
The
SACWA.
results. Yeah, the South African
Yes,
qualification authorities, right? Okay.
correct.
Mm.
So those are one of the part of the requirements. So if these
Okay.
requirements are completed, then such person will complete a form, a prescribed form, depending on the country, proceed to the embassy or the VFS facilitation center
Mm.
and lodge the applications. Biodata will be taken and the person will be given a receipt of application. This relates to the people who are outside the country.
Okay.
Then, if the requirements are met, the Department of Home Affairs will communicate the outcome within a prescribed period.
Okay.
Then, if you are rejected, the reasons for the rejections will also be communicated that this is the reason why we have rejected you. The process are quite straightforward. Yes,
Mm.
the process are quite straightforward. But the issue is the meeting up of the requirements are what
Okay.
becomes difficult to some people. So
Okay.
that is in a nutshell study visas. Study visas are quite straightforward. It's one of the easiest permit or visa that you can acquire in South Africa if you do meet the prescribed requirement.
Okay, and you said something, you made mention that there are different ways to verify a higher institute, basically, to know whether it's registered or not. So what are those, how can you verify an institution to actually ascertain that it's actually registered?
Definitely, you can contact. There is a board. There's a higher education board. Yeah,
Okay.
you see, in South Africa there are mainstream institutions. Mainstream. Why I say mainstream institution, you can think of say popular universities that you can
Mm,
Google that represent the country. So
okay.
once you are now registering with those
Mm,
well-known universities, and you want to deal with, for example, colleges, FET colleges, you want to deal with smaller colleges, private institutions, then that is where the issue comes from. Because we do
mm,
have bogus or
mm.
some institutions, private institutions, that their accreditation has been expired or been revoked. So, how do you verify? In fact, there are lists in the Department of Education. The Department of Education South Africa got the list of accredited institutions from different levels. If you go on their website, yes, you can find it. In fact, you can give them a call, send them an email to say, I intend to register with this particular school, but I want to be sure that this school is registered. In fact, they can send you the list of all the schools that are
Okay,
registered
that's
under the
great.
Department of Education with a valid license or valid accreditations.
That's great. That's awesome. So now, I wanted to ask, how true is this? A student who's using a study permit is able to work with the study permit. So I want to know how true is it and what are the restrictions in terms of the hours? Because I know obviously they're not going to work the same hours as someone who is using a work permit. So please, what are the restrictions in terms of hours as well?
Okay, okay. You need to structure your question first. The first question is the
Mm,
question is, can a student actually be allowed to work with a study permit? That should be the first question.
yes. Yeah.
Um, when a permit is given,
Mm-hmm.
it comes with endorsements. It comes with conditions, and if you make use of your permit, for example, study permit, beyond the scope, beyond the conditions, or in contravention of the condition upon which it was issued, it can be revoked. That is one side. Most study visas, most study visas are, or most people with study permits are not permitted to work in South Africa in terms of the
Okay.
law. Yes.
Okay.
So I need to put the record straight.
Okay.
Yes. Study permit is not a work visa
Mm.
and it's not a permit to work. If you are using a study visa and you intend to work, there are works that you cannot do. You are not permitted to do every work. So then
Okay.
when you apply, the institution might say, for example, there is a coursework or
Mm.
practical work that you need to entail, or you need to go and do practical in a particular institution. Then such must be endorsed.
Mm.
Yes, that comes to the question you were asking. So now,
Mm.
first of all, was when making application for such study visa, did the applicant indicate that the study will entail some practicals? Otherwise, if such person is found in a work environment, that is a contravention. In fact, the employer can also be charged in terms of
Okay.
the law. Yes. So
Mm.
now, depending on the condition of the study, then the condition of the study will regulate the hours of work, because you are not regarded as an employee for that purpose.
Mm.
Remember, South Africa has got a very beautiful Labor Relations Act that
Mhm.
guides employers, employees.
Please. Exactly.
Yes, and who to
Mm.
employ and who not to employ. Yes,
Mm.
a student can work if the work, in terms of if the work is in relation in completing the study or
Okay.
acquiring skills in that study. Yes.
Mm. Okay, thank you so much for the clarification because I also really wanted to know because it's quite confusing, but thank you very much for the clarification. So
Thank you.
now I know majority of Zimbabweans previously used to use ZSP before it was just I don't know what happened to it. It was just discontinued, and now we get into this. We are hearing of ZEP everywhere. So I want to know what exactly is ZEP and what does it do and how do they qualify for it?
Okay. That is actually a trending topic as we speak within the
Eh,
immigrations law. Yes. Uh, okay. Let me start from here. Zimbabweans are South Africa's neighbor, one of the South Africa's neighbor, very close neighbors. In fact, they are one of the SADC countries. When we say SADC regions, yes, they are one
yes.
of the southern African countries. South Africa
Mm.
is South African country, but South Africa also belongs to southern countries within
Yes,
SADC
yes,
region.
yes.
So, um, South Africa, from history, have been witnessing a lot of flux or influx of illegal migrants.
Mm.
Zimbabwe, to be peculiar, has the leadership crisis of uh, the late, may he so rest in peace, the late Mugabe, Robert
Mugabe.
Mugabe. Yes, and they've been calling for change. There has been an economic crisis, which also relates to sanctions by the authorities in the West, and it also has contributed to breakdown of the economic issues in Zimbabwe. And when the economics are not in order, you be able the next region
Mm.
who are if who are the bigger brother now, South Africa bigger brother now, begin to receive the 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 outcome, or
Mm.
what will I say, the repels of what is happening in Zimbabwe.
Mm.
And they are quite close, just like saying Ghana and Nigeria. The
Yes.
borders are quite close.
Mm.
Now, there have been a lot of influx of a lot of Zimbabweans in the countries, and some of them have acquired South African documents through one way or the other, whether legally or illegally. So we must applaud South Africa and to say they come to this conclusion to say, what do we do? What do we do? And people who are desperate, not just migrants, but migrants that are desperate, that employers can also take advantage of
Yes, absolutely.
these migrants. Even if work is given to these migrant workers who are undocumented, in a place of a South African citizen, that employer might have exploitative, not necessarily, I stand to be corrected, might not pay the accurate wage.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So might not pay the accurate wage to this person. But another thing I must also bring here, Zimbabweans are well educated. One of the things Mugabe did for them is he gave them a very good education.
Absolutely.
They are competent. They might be competent. They are willing to work longer hours. But now, would the employer be willing to pay them their value for their skills? And for the fact that you're undocumented, you're illegal, you are hiding, then you'll be scared that the employer might also report you to authorities. Then you are willing to accept conditions that are not in line with the Labor Relations Act. And as a result of that, the citizens started complaining to say our places are taken. And indeed, you see, that is automatic or natural consequence of what will happen. Yes, if I know my right as a citizen and I say, no, I need to work between 8 and 4, not 8 to 8, then maybe the employer is okay. The employer will find a reason to dismiss me, then employ someone who will not question that order. But now let's come back to ZESP. Exactly. Now, what is that? So I'm trying to give you a history and the background why those laws came into effect. Then South Africa brought this special program to say, okay, if you're already in South Africa, whether legally or illegally, and you are in Zimbabwe, we have decided, please voluntarily report yourself. We are willing to give you a special permit called ZSP permits. Zimbabweans special exemption permit. So they exempted them to say, yes, come, go and submit, we'll give you. But that permit lapses within a period of time. There are conditions to that permit. If you read the content of that permit, the holder of such permit are not allowed to apply for permanent resident or change conditions. The holders, there are a lot of conditions. One of the ideas behind that permit is the South Africa need to know how many people do we have from Zimbabwe that are here. Let's document them. At least let's document them. Those who are still at workplace, let's know them. That's one of the reasons for ZSP permit. Then most of them complied. ZSP permit was given to them. Then for a period of time, and it was extended to a particular period. Remember, it's a special scheme adopted by the minister. ZSP is not in terms of the law, in terms of the act. There's nothing like that. There's not a permit called that in terms of the Immigration Act. It is a special scheme to salvage a situation. Now, since we already know how many people you are, then the minister says, okay, the ZSP permit will not continue. It will not continue. Then we're giving you, if you have a ZSP that is expiring on the 31st of December 2022, you are given from this time to this time to apply for a permit as allowed within the Immigration Act. Mind you, the person who brought the ZSP permit was the previous minister.
Yes,
a lot of changes happened in this current ministerial appointment. Now, The current minister says if you're under ZSP, you are working, you are studying, whatever you are doing under your ZSP, you are given from this time to this time. If you know you qualify for study visa, go and apply for study visa. So he's actually bringing them back to the original status quo that is allowed in terms of the law. If you qualify for business permit, go and apply for business permit. If you qualify for spousal permit, go and apply for spousal permit. If you qualify for work permit, some of you that are working right now, go and apply for work permit. That the special scheme will no longer be allowed. But luckily, it was further extended till next year, 2023. It will not expire 2022 anymore. Yes.
Okay.
So basically, that is ZSP for you.
Wow. Okay. A lot of Zimbabweans are not going to be happy, but anyways, the law is the law, unfortunately.
Yes.
So I want to ask you about the asylum, because previously you made mention of asylum. Who can qualify for an asylum permit or a refugee permit?
Okay. You see, you made the two keywords here.
Yes.
These words are used interchangeably, and people do confuse those words.
Okay.
Asylum seeker and a refugee.
Yes, it's two different.
Okay. Let me clarify those two terms.
Okay.
An asylum seeker is a person who is seeking to be recognized as a refugee.
Okay.
Yes. So you run as a result. Okay. In terms of the Refugees Act, Refugees Act 130 of 1998, specifically Section 21, Section 2, prescribes those and on the conditions. Just to give you a reference, prescribe those who will qualify to be recognized as refugees. Just hold on, just to give you an instance.
Okay.
Those who qualify, you remember, as an asylum seeker, you claim that you fled your country for one reason or the other. Then you want to seek refuge in another person's country. Now, South Africa made a law. Remember, South Africa is a part of the international community. In fact, part of OAU, part of United Nations. In fact, they've signed treaties in order to recognize refugees in their country. So those treaties, they were signed, but what then happens is it needs to be domesticated in the country. Then it was indeed domesticated in terms of the Refugees Act, Act 130 of 1998. So specifically in Section 3 of the Refugees Act that I just quoted, simply says, these are the grounds for one to qualify. It says, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted by reason of your race. That is one. By reason of your tribe. Two. By reason of your religion. By reason of your nationality. Your political opinion or membership. So I'm listing a lot of grounds. By reason of your social group or your sexual orientation. Now, this is one of the consultation we have with clients, but if you claim to be an asylum seeker and all your stories are not within one of these grounds,
Mm.
then you cannot be recognized as a refugee in South Africa. For example, and you must be able to prove, amongst other things, that the country where you fled from were unable to give you protection from what you are complaining from.
Okay.
In fact, there's a whole lot of requirements
Makes
to be met.
sense.
Yeah, just in summary, there must be well-founded fear as a result of one of those grounds listed in Section 3 of the Refugees Act. Yes. And you must be able to onus, what we call the onus, the responsibility to prove these allegations. The burden are on you, the person who is seeking the asylum.
Okay.
And now, most interesting thing that is happening in the asylum sector now is that if you claim that you are fleeing from another country to South Africa for refugee status, Section 23 of the Refugees Act says you must declare at the port of entry. When you get to the port of entry, you must raise up your hands and say, no, I'm running away from something. But what happens is, what the minister was saying on the other day, people will come here and say they want to come as a tourist or visitors. They enter the country as a visitor, they say they're here for 30 days, then boom, then the next day they say, no, they are seeking for an asylum. So now those are the issues that has been on the hot plate.
And I'm guessing the reasons expire, right? Like if you give a reason for the reason, obviously for being in the country, I'm sure it expires. Then they'll have to. Doesn't their reason expire?
What reason? The reason for seeking asylum or being in the country?
Yeah, for taking asylum. Obviously, they will write in the statement that, okay, this is the reason why I want to, get an asylum.
Okay.
This, that.
Okay. Oh, the reason? No. You remember, the reason can never expire. But your question is quite correct in some instance. For example, you said that maybe they say there's a war.
Okay.
Or let's take Nigeria for an instance. You come from the northern part, where there is the quite evidential proof of Boko Haram, the suppression of Christianity by Muslim faith, for instance, or by a proper aggression to say, no, I was forcefully or I wanted to be conscripted into Boko Haram or something like that. So we all know that the government themselves within that region are still fighting. People were displaced. There are displaced people all over. Then, and you came here, you gave such reason, for instance. So how can that reason expire? The reason can only expire until the government of Nigeria say, no, they have finally conquered Boko Haram. Okay. And the evidential proof is there.
Noted.
And so that's the only time your reason can expire.
Okay.
And it depends. The reason might have expired, but if you are a target for assassination, it will never expire because you are not safe. For instance, if you are reported that you are the one that giving intels to the people on the ground, even if the reason expired, that you say, no, I'm still not safe. That's why the government has made peace with the fighters, but because of the role that I played at a particular point in time, I don't think I'm safe. So the reason might never expire.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah, and also, what about in countries where they were fighting war previously, and then after a while the war just dies down? What happens to such people?
Yes, if such people, for example, we can take Rwanda, for instance. So remember, it depends on the reason why you sought for an asylum. Yes, if you sought an asylum as a result of your political opinion,
Mm.
and the thing brought war,
Mm.
then later it was the opposition that you fought against, or you fought against the ideology, or you're an activist, or in fact you're a journalist. You are involved in active journalism against speaking up, and you're being wanted. We know a lot of people who have taken exiles. So the
Mm.
country cannot force you to go back home if you think that you are still not safe, even if the war is over. Remember,
Mm.
after war is over, there's still a lot of cleansing that goes on.
Sure.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, it depends on the person. If the person said, no, yes, I think um, my fears has now been allayed by the current situation in the country where I fled from, then,
Mm.
yes. But you know, the South African law cannot force you to go back to that country. It's against the law. If
Okay.
you see, if that's part of my book that I'm dealing with, but I don't want to disclose them here. That's what we call economic migrants and the real migrants. That what we call
Mm.
economic refugees and the
Mm.
real refugees in terms of the act. The
Okay.
law protects the real asylum seekers.
Okay.
Yes. If
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay. Not a problem. Okay. So I just wanted to find out: is it possible for an asylum seeker to change to a study permit?
To change to
Study permit.
um okay, that has been okay, okay. I'm also going to broaden your question, but let's start with what you just asked. Is it possible
Okay.
for an asylum seeker to change to a study permit, or in fact to change a condition?
Okay. 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 Mm.
Okay, let me answer your first question. You know, one of the conditions of under the asylum, if you have seen one before, is that the holder is allowed to work and study.
Yes. Mm.
Can you see that?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Imagine that you change from such asylum to a study permit, and you are not allowed to work. You're only allowed to study in terms of the study visa. So you must be sure of what you are wishing for. there are,
Yeah, I get you.
yeah,
Yeah, I
there are things
get
I
you.
won't say. There are things I won't say online, but I will say them on a
Hmm.
private, private consultation. Yes. So that
Okay.
is one. Then number two, an asylum seeker who is already in South Africa, it will be difficult for you to change from an asylum to study visa. The reason is, before you can migrate from an asylum, you
Mhm.
need what we call a waiver by
Yes,
the
yes,
minister,
yes.
because you cannot just take that asylum and apply directly for a study visa or any other kind of permit. It will
Mm.
not be allowed. If you want to
Okay.
change your condition,
Mm.
or you don't want to change from asylum seeker to, in fact, to come into a regime of permitting. Remember, the regime of refugees has their own law. Then the
Mm.
regime of permitting's got their own immigration law. So if you want to change from
Mm.
this regime to this regime, you need to do
Mm.
what we call, you need to apply for what we call to waiver,
Waiver.
waiving
Mm.
the condition you are in.
Mm.
And it is the minister that will approve that waiver. In
Mm.
fact, the minister signs them personally. In fact, from my experience, from many I have submitted, the minister signs them. He does not delegate this duty. He has the right to delegate it, but he said, no, I want to sign them personally.
Himself.
Most most waivers we submitted under study visas were all declined.
Wow.
With, with a simple reason that I've just quoted. That if you're an asylum seeker and you have valid asylum, that it permits you to study and work. So what are you waiving to study again?
But there are still restrictions, though. There are restrictions. Imagine, I'm
Yes,
guessing. they can't travel, right? They can't travel, and they have to constantly renew it after every, is it 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, so depending on the type of asylum, right?
Yes, yes, yes. You see, let me tell you something. It's not true. It's a wrong perception that they cannot travel. Asylum
Really?
seeker, yes, asylum seeker do not have to travel. Remember, okay, let me put this clear. You are an asylum seeker. When you are given an asylum permit,
Mm,
that is a mistake a lot of people usually make or
mm,
misunderstands the law.
mm,
When you come and say you run away from, maybe say because of your sexual orientation, the law
mm.
says the officer must accept your story first
Okay,
and give you a temporary asylum document.
okay.
Are you listening?
Yes, yes, yes.
Most of the asylum that people are carrying all about are temporary. They are not yet recognized.
I
It's just to
see.
say, okay, we have accepted your application. In fact, it's like holding a receipt of application.
Mm, mm, mm,
We have had your claim. We are investigating.
mm, mm,
Then you, the asylum seeker, should not go home and rest and start sleeping.
mm, mm,
Say, no, now I have a right. I'm an asylum seeker. No, you must follow the process in terms of the law to the end until you are recognized.
okay.
Once you are recognized, you are entitled to an ID. Once you
Okay.
are recognized, you are entitled to a passport that you can travel to any other country except the country where you ran away from.
Okay. Okay.
So
That's great.
yes, that is misunderstanding or ignorance. People say no,
Mm,
this asylum I can't do much because they're already settling on a receipt. You cannot
mm,
settle. You cannot start buying house, buying cars on a receipt that
mm,
was given to you
mm.
without saying yes, you have been given a status. So most
Okay.
people come to me, they say, no, but I have asylum, they just decided that they're not giving us again. No, it's wrong. They don't
Okay.
understand what the law says. Yes.
Okay. I'm glad that you actually just explained that because a lot of people, I'm sure they're also thinking like me because we hear stories everywhere. So thank you very much for that. Let's just go on a short
Thank
break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you more questions about the waiver because I know you mentioned of the waiver. Let's just go on a short break and we'll be right back.
thank you.
Clevenard In Diaspora Television is an internet online TV service. What sets us apart is a unique combination of hit African content, first and exclusive international free movies, series, musics, news, events, documentaries, tourism, teleshopping shows, youth TV programs, and live interviews. Clevenard Diaspora Television is available throughout sub-Saharan Africa and to the diaspora markets worldwide. Take your entertainment with you wherever you go. Watch on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, smart TV, depending on your device. Watch free movies with Clevenard Movies Television. Stop searching for free movies websites and watch Clevenard Movies Television. Watch your favorite African shows anywhere at any time. Don't forget to check out our top 5 TV channels created to get you informed. TV1, Clevenard In Diaspora Television. TV2, Clevenard Youth Television. TV3, Clevenard Movies Television. TV4, Clevenard Teleshopping Television. TV5, Clevenard Tourism Television. To start watching, sign up at www.clevenard.com and follow the easy steps. Once you're done, log into the Clevenard website or app on your device, click on any one of our 5 TV channels, and hit play. We will be very satisfied and happy to welcome you to our team as one of our new business partners. Contact info@clevenard.com +34 631 279811. Website www.clevenard.com.
Welcome back, guys. So before we went on a break, we're talking about asylum seekers and refugee permits. So now I just want to find out, because I know there are 2 different waivers, there's a TRV waiver and PRP waiver. So what's the difference between the TRV waiver and the PRP waiver?
The difference between
the TRV waiver and the PRP
TRV
waiver.
waivers?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, when you say TRV, in general, we are dealing with temporary resident visas or permits. And if, for example, for instance, you came into the country with visitor's visa, for example.
Okay.
And the visitor visa simply says, if you look at the endorsement, it will say, not allowed to change condition in the country.
Mm.
Are you listening?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I'm going to give you the instances before I tell you now. You can come with what we call, let's say you come with a medical crew visa. Medical crew visa. And underneath that visa, it will be written, condition not allowed to be changed within the country. That is number 2. Number 3, for example, religious workers. That also was on the news last time, but I'm not sure we're going to talk about it today. When we say religious workers, in general, we're looking at voluntary permits. Voluntary permits. Voluntary permits, if it's issued outside the country or even within the country, you are not allowed also to change the conditions. Okay. You are not allowed to migrate. Now, I'm going to tell that there are 2 special waivers. There are waivers even from time immemorial, and the waivers as a result of decisions of the Supreme Court and the Constitutional Court. So now, I'm trying to give you the history of waivers. Okay. For example, if you came here on a visitor's visa and you've been coming and going, you have extended your visa, and as maybe the luck may have it, you found your missing ring in the street of something. for instance. Then your visa says you cannot allow it because now, and you decide, no, I want to settle down in South Africa. Now I want to settle down. In terms of the law, you must go back home to apply for a spousal visa. Now, but you said, no, there are reasons. My circumstances have changed. I won't be able to go back home. Can I be able to do it here in the country? I don't want to go home. Can't I change it here? Then you apply for a waiver or an exemption to say, the minister, please, I know the law says 1, 2, 3. I know the condition of my permit says 1, 2, 3. Please, can you kindly, within your powers, waive me this requirement and say I must go back home? Okay. In order to apply. Okay. Then, if it pleases the minister, the honorable minister, then he might grant your way that particular thing to be waived. Now, the popular waiver, there has been waiver, a lot of waiver has been here. It has been there before in the law, but people are not taking them. So the popular waiver that is now reigning, or let's say the popular waiver that is now invoked, that everybody has now know what is called waiver. It is when, for example, in 2014, when the former minister now made a call to say, before it's what I think it's before June or December, if I to be precise, if you do have an asylum or you do have any permit that does not allow you, or your permit has expired. Previously, if your permit expired, you're allowed to pay a fine. A lot has changed. You're allowed to pay a fine. Then then if you have existing permit or you want to change from one condition to another, you are given up until December 2014. That's when the new law came into place by Gigaba to say lodge application. For example, if you have expired visa, then if you have not lodged that application in 2014, the new law says if you want to apply for any permit and you don't have an existing permit, the law simply says go back home and apply from your country of origin.
Okay.
Before 2014, people who come here or maybe on business, they can decide to marry. There's no problem. They can grant them the spousal visa, business visa, all these visas. Now, the regulation changed in 2014 to say, if you have not made application between this time and you want to make that application, you must go back home. For example, let me give you a typical example for you to understand. For instance, you are married and you have a marriage certificate. You came on a visa and you got married at Home Affairs, or you got a partner in terms of notarial contract. Then you have a partner. You are busy putting your document in order to make an application. And boom, December 2014 has passed. Now, and you have already started residing with this your South African spouse, and you already have marriage certificate or notarial contract in your hand, or you have not made an application. Then the law also affected them to say, go back home. Now this man says, no, how can I go back home? I came here as an asylum seeker. Now I'm married, I have 2 children. Now I have a South African spouse. In fact, I've paid Lobola, I've paid the traditional rights, and I've done everything. In fact, I did a wedding, I'm with my children. Now you say I must go home to go and apply in order to reside here with my spouse. Now, then this become a concern for a lot of, especially people in a spousal relationship. They took Home Affairs to court. In fact, it went from the High Court to the Supreme Court of Appeal up to the Constitutional Court. I think if I remember that case properly, is a case of Robinson. They went to court and other people joined in this matter to say that sanctity of marriages are one of the natural laws that need to be respected. That if this law that was promulgated to say, if I don't have a permit within this period, and I wish to apply for permit after this period, that the only option in order for me to be accepted is to go back to my country to apply. You are not allowed to apply within the country, but you must go back home. Now, after the full bench listened to the different decisions, and they found that this law by the Department of Home Affairs were unlawful as it relates to existing asylum seekers, as it relates to the people who are already in a spousal relationship. I base the fact that they have not yet been given a permit in that respect. Now, the Constitutional Court now decided to say, okay, that there should be a special waiver. If someone says, I've been here, I've been trying to get my documents in order, I've been here, and there's a reason I cannot go home. If I go home, you are separating me from my family, from my wife and kids. What if the permits are not granted if I go back home? Then automatically you are divorcing me and my wife by virtue of such law. Now, the issue of waiver now was directed by the Constitutional Court to say, yes, the minister must accept waivers from such people.
Okay.
Yes, so now when you apply for a waiver under TRP, to say, yes, I've been an asylum seeker, but now I've been married to my wife, I want to change to a permit, but it must be in relation either to business, in relation to critical skills, in relation mostly spousal 11.6. It must be in that relation to say yes, and you must state the reason why you won't be able to go out of the country to apply.
Okay. Okay. Thank you
That
very much
is,
for that.
in general, TRP waivers. Then
Okay.
PRP waivers.
Okay.
Permanent resident, PRP, we know is a permanent resident.
Mm.
It depends on what you are qualifying for. Remember when we say waiver,
Mm.
the whole purpose of waiver is that this is what the law is saying. The law is saying 1, 2, 3. But I can meet 1, 2. I cannot meet 3. And the reason why I cannot meet 3 is not my fault.
Mm.
That is generally what waiver is all about, whether TRP or PRP.
Mm.
And on good cause, that because of the reason I've cited, that minister should be able to waive the third requirement as it is written in terms of the law.
Mm.
Remember, the minister's decision is not final.
Mm.
If you apply for waiver and the minister declines the waiver, you have a right to approach the court to say the decisions of the ministers were taken arbitrarily without due consideration, without taking my conditions or my circumstances into account.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we say PRP waiver, it depends on what you are waiving in PRP.
Okay.
So the question needs to be, yes, what do I need to waive? What requirement have I not met that I cannot meet, that requires me to ask the minister to say, please, the requirement says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8, and 10. I was able to meet 1, 2, 3, 4 to 9. Only 10, 9, and 10 I can't meet because of 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
I'm sure that answers your question.
Yeah, you've answered my question. Okay, so now what can you tell us about the Angolan exemption permit? I think I've been hearing about it for just a while now. What can you tell us about it? And who can apply for it?
Yeah, you see, Angolan exemption permit
Mm.
is also like ZSP permit.
Okay.
Angolan exemption permit is also, you remember, it's not only Zimbabweans that were given special exemption. They were also given to Lesothos.
Mm. Oh yes, Lesotho. Yes, I remember. Yes.
Yeah, they were also given to Lesothos. So it is also a scheme of trying to know this particular population from this region. Who are they?
I see.
It is, yes, almost exactly the same like ZSP. It just to say, okay, you have been here, you've been struggling. You remember Angola is also almost it's a SADC. Okay, we recognize you. Come, let's document. Let's see. The idea is to document the undocumented.
So it's a trap,
We need
basically. It's a trap.
Yes.
For those
Yeah. So
illegal.
I would say that, from the legal point of view, I would say so the idea is to document you, to know your presence in here. Yeah. Remember, if you have listened to the minister on the other occasion, that all other exemption that was issued to other people will also be revisited, just like ZSP. They are starting with ZSP. So they will be revisited as well. Yes, on the condition. And remember, let me tell you this, there are also political and diplomatic aspect of this. There are also political and diplomatic aspect on all these special exemptions. So depending on your relationship with the country, most of this can be solved diplomatically. Yes.
Okay, not a
Yes.
problem. So I just wanted to also just find out which countries, right, are exempted from using a visa when they're entering into South Africa.
Say again?
So which countries?
I can't hear.
Can you hear me? So which countries, right, are exempted from using a visa when entering into South Africa?
Okay. Uh, I think that I will have to check it up. Most of let's say, if you're from most the Western countries, maybe if you have American visa, American passport, UK, Australians, yes. So I have to check the updated list for African countries. The African country, for example, most of them can be visa on arrival.
Okay.
Even if you're exempted. Remember that there's two kind of visas. South Africa does not operate to a total free visa zone, or you can say visa on arrival zones.
Okay.
That you are at least guaranteed that when you get at the port of entry, you can get a stamp to say for 30 days at a time. Okay. Yes. So one that comes in mind is the Americans, the UK, the Australians. Then one of the in African country that I know is Zambians. Even Zimbabweans are given days on their passport, 30 days or 3 months at a time, which you can come in as a visitor and exit. If you do not exit within that particular time, you will be labeled undesirable in terms of Section 30 of the Section 20 now, or prohibited. That's Section 30 or 29 of the Immigration Act. So I can safely tell you that most SADC countries are visas on arrival.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's also a question that has really been going through my mind, which I believe a lot of our viewers would like to know. Let's say, is it possible for someone to get permanent resident in a country, or let's use SA as an example, in South Africa, just because they are coming into the country to invest in the country?
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, are you done with your question?
Yes. Because I think America does it. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I also just wanted to find out if it happens in South Africa as well.
Yes, there are two laws in that respect.
Okay.
There are business visa, and that's what we call direct permanent residence visa.
Okay.
Let me start with a business visa. The business visa is regulated.
I'm sorry, my apologies. Let's just take a short break, and when we get back, you will now just explain everything to us. So, guys, we'll see you in a jiffy.
All right.
Clevenard In Diaspora Television is an internet online TV service. What sets us apart is a unique combination of hit African content, first and exclusive international free movies, series, musics, news, events, documentaries, tourism, teleshopping shows, youth TV programs, and live interviews. Clevenard Diaspora Television is available throughout sub-Saharan Africa and to the diaspora markets worldwide. Take your entertainment with you wherever you go. Watch on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, smart TV, depending on your device. Watch free movies with Clevenard Movies Television. Stop searching for free movies websites and watch Clevenard Movies Television. Watch your favorite African shows anywhere at any time. Don't forget to check out our top 5 TV channels created to get you informed. TV1, Clevenard In Diaspora Television. TV2, Clevenard Youth Television. TV3, Clevenard Movies Television. TV4, Clevenard Teleshopping Television. TV5, Clevenard Tourism Television. To start watching, sign up at www.clevenard.com and follow the easy steps. Once you're done, log into the Clevenard website or app on your device, click on any one of our 5 TV channels, and hit play. We will be very satisfied and happy to welcome you to our team as one of our new business partners. Contact info@clevenard.com +34 631 279811. Website www.clevenard.com. Clevenard in Diaspora.
Okay, welcome back, guys. Before we went on a break, he was explaining certain things to us. Let's just allow him to continue. Sir, please feel free to continue with the explanation you're giving us previously.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. As I was saying, Section 14 of the regulation, the immigration regulations, deals with study visa, deals with business visa. Okay, first of all, because your question simply says, can a person get a direct permanent residence? Because I do not want to deviate from the actual question itself.
Okay.
Yes, one of the ways, if you want to invest,
Mm.
if you want to invest, the business, in fact, the current regulation says you must have 5 million rands
Okay.
in terms of the business, and your business must be registered, and you must approach the DTI. DTI is the Register of Companies. They need to come and do what is called an assessment if your business or your investment will benefit the country. And most important aspect of the business permit is that your workforce must be at least 60% of South African citizens. Then once you are able to be issued with a business visa, which at most times is 5 years, then that you qualify for permanent resident, not direct permanent resident. You qualify for permanent residence. Then that is one. Business visa is a bit quite, the process is a bit quite long. But there's what we call direct permanent resident on purely investment.
Okay.
If you are able, I think that is regulation. I'm not sure quite the act of heart. I'm going to just find the act quickly and upload it. If you are able to show that you have a prescribed amount, a prescribed amount of money in terms of the Gazette, I think the last I checked should be either 12 million rands, and you were able to declare same. We call that permanent resident on financial independence. Let me repeat it. It's not actually an investment like in the UK. The UK style was incorporated into the business visa, that you must bring business, you must be an investor, but you must first have a business visa first. Then you later apply for permanent resident. So if you're an investor, it does not lead you directly to permanent residence.
Okay.
If you chose the angle of business, you must first obtain the business permit, establish the business, then you can apply for permanent resident and it can be granted. Or under the same business, if you are buying an existing business, or you are investing in an existing business,
Okay.
or you are becoming a shareholder in an existing business, you can also get a business permit, and within 6 months you apply for permanent resident. But that is on the business angle. If we have to do a comparison, that is within the United States style on investment.
Okay.
But now, direct permanent resident on another ground that we have in South Africa, in fact, we can count how many people have ever gotten permanent resident on those grounds. Is permanent resident under what we call financial independent individual.
Okay.
Then The financially independent individual is to say that I'm bringing my money. For example, I'm in the UK, I'm coming to South Africa, I'm bringing less, in terms of the regulation, I think that I'm going to check the current regulations. I think the last is 12 million, equivalent of 12 million rents that is available for an investment, that I have that ready on me. Then when you apply, the the National Treasury, or what we call the Reserve Bank, is entitled to what we call 120,000 rand fee.
Okay.
Yes, apart from the tax implications of the money you are bringing in. Then we apply to the minister directly to say, I'm so person. This money is in the Bank of the US, in the National Bank of US. If you want me to move it down to South Africa, I'll move it in. It's readily available. There will be an accountant that will provide that, yes, it's yours, it's a legit money. Then this money, it can be readily be moved down to South Africa, because the idea is to boost the economy. Then you can get, if after meeting other requirements like police clearance, character, to know that it's not a money laundry, it's not a terrorist money, that is a clean money. Then you have met other requirements, then permanent resident, direct permanent resident can be granted onto you. That is only exception for direct permanent residents.
Okay. Okay, not a problem. Thank you so much, sir. You've really given us so many informations. We need to go home now and think about it. You've really clarified so many things. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and asking you questions and so on. So thank you so much. Just tell us how we can reach you on social media, and then just tell us how we can reach you.
Okay. We do have a website, is www.nwobiattorneys.co.za. We can be reached on 012 321 1531. Our offices are based in Pretoria, South Africa. Yes, for any immigration related issues. We do not only consult, we also into litigations. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. It was great having you in Clevenard TV. Thank you so much, and thanks so much to our viewers that have tuned in. Thank you so much, guys, but we need to leave now. Until next time.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.